Hello and thanks for joining us for our late night newscast coming to you from Arirang's News Centre in Seoul. I'm Mark Broom. The countdown to next month's general election is our starting point tonight, and the ruling Saenuri Party has announced its finalised list of candidates for the April 13th election. Some are mainstream loyalists of President Park Geun-hye, but the elimination of core loyalist Kim Jae-won has surprised many. The final announcement came after the process restarted following 3 days of inaction. The process had been paralysed as the party's chairman Kim Moo-sung and a number of others boycotted Thursday's Supreme Council meeting in protest after the nomination committee controlled by Park loyalists refused to reconsider the decision to deny candidacies to key opponents of President Park. The party has still not announced the nomination of political heavyweight Yoo Seung-min, who had clashed with President Park after the former floor leader of the ruling party criticised the Park administration's promise to expand social welfare without raising taxes. And latching on to the internal strife within the ruling party at this crunch time, the main opposition Minjoo Party of Korea and the minor opposition People's Party have been promoting themselves as viable alternatives. At the opening ceremony of a fellow lawmaker's campaign office, the Minjoo Party's interim leader, Kim Jong-in, criticised the ruling party for the turmoil and questioned whether it is really a democratic party. He also expressed confidence that the stability brought by his party's internal reform measures would help it win the public's trust ahead of the election. Speaking at a ceremony on Saturday, co-chairman of the minor opposition People's Party, Ahn Cheol-soo, said the country is facing an emergency, but there's no solution as the two main parties are riddled with vested interests. He said that when there are three parties, they cannot simply oppose each other. They will have to propose a solution. A senior official from South Korea's foreign ministry says China has expressed openness to holding multilateral talks on North Korea's denuclearization that excludes Pyongyang. Now, that includes a possible three-way meeting with Seoul and Washington. Lee Ji-won with more.
China is open to trilateral talks with South Korea and the United States on the denuclearization of North Korea. South Korea's representative to the six-party talks, Kim Hong-kyun, said Saturday that his Chinese counterpart, Woo Da-wei, expressed Beijing's stance during their meeting the previous day. Kim said he suggested three-way talks on implementing the UN sanctions targeting North Korea's nuclear and missile programs, and Woo replied by saying China would review the proposal with an open mind. Recently, China's foreign minister mentioned how Beijing is open to everything, including three-way, four-way, and even five-way talks to kickstart the long-stalled six-party talks involving the two Koreas, China, the US, Japan, and Russia. The South Korean envoy, who is also Seoul's special representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, said both sides shared concerns about North Korea's recent nuclear and ballistic missile provocations. He said countries must fully implement UN sanctions to create an environment where North Korea is left with no choice but to change. Meanwhile, the UN Security Council has condemned North Korea for firing ballistic missiles into the East Sea. At an emergency meeting on Friday, the Council strongly condemned North Korea's firings on March 10th and the 18th, calling them unacceptable and a clear violation of the UN resolutions. The Council urged North Korea to comply with the resolutions and cease any further provocations. It also reiterated that all countries should redouble their efforts in implementing sanctions against the regime. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, North Korea's main nuclear test site appears ready to support more nuclear tests. Now, this is the assessment of North Korea monitoring website 38 North. It says satellite imagery taken earlier this month shows activity continues at the Punggye-ri nuclear test site in the northeast of the country. Punggye-ri is where North Korea conducted its fourth nuclear test on January 6th. The US-based website says its experts believe the site is capable of supporting additional tests at this time. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un warned this week that Pyongyang will go ahead with more nuclear bomb and ballistic missile tests in the near future to further assess its capabilities. US President Barack Obama plans to nominate General Vincent Brooks, commander of US Army Pacific, to succeed General Curtis Scaparotti as commander of US Forces Korea. Speaking in an interview with Politico, US Defense Secretary Ashton Carter said Brooks has the operational and managerial experience to handle such a high-profile job. Brooks is considered well-versed in military affairs in China and on the Korean peninsula. If confirmed, he will be the first black US Forces Korea commander. Scaparotti, who headed US Forces Korea since 2013, was nominated to be NATO's top military commander last week. A passenger plane with 62 people on board has crashed while trying to land in Russia's southern city of Rostov-on-Don. There were no survivors among the 55 passengers and the 7 crew members. Reports say the plane coming from Dubai was circling in poor visibility for 2 hours before crashing. That's CCTV footage of the crash. Out of the passengers, 44 Russians, 8 Ukrainians, 2 Indians and an Uzbek were all killed. It's believed pilot error or a technical failure most likely caused the crash, but the investigation goes on. 5 people have been killed and more than 35 injured in Turkey's 4th suicide bomb attack since the start of the year. The explosion occurred on Istanbul's main pedestrian shopping street on Saturday. On weekends, that street there is usually packed with shoppers and foreign tourists having a nice time. Now, no word yet on who carried out this horrific attack. Last Sunday, a bombing in Ankara killed 37 people. A Kurdish militant group claimed responsibility for that attack, saying it was revenge for Turkey's military operations against Kurds. Now, Korea's largest automaker, Hyundai Motor, has scored highly in customer satisfaction in terms of US dealer service. In their annual benchmark study, J.D. Power and Associates said Hyundai Motor scored 814 on a 1,000-point scale, and this means the Korean automaker ranked 5th highest. Mini was the highest-ranked mass-market brand. Buick, GMC and Chevrolet were 2nd, 3rd and 4th, respectively. Now, virtual reality, one of the big themes at this year's Mobile World Congress, is expanding its presence into healthcare. Korean researchers found that virtual reality-based exercises combined with standard therapy sessions resulted in a more effective rehabilitation process. Park Se-young has the details.
A patient flips a fish on the screen without touching the computer. The device he's wearing is a smart glove that uses motion-based games to help patients with forearm paralysis make faster recoveries. The games simulate daily activities such as turning pages or picking up objects, and the glove-shaped sensor tracks the patient's movement.
The exercises are fun, so I'm more likely to do them, which will help me recover.
The smart glove system collects data on the wearer's motions and posture and measures the range of finger movement. The information is sent to a software app that then manipulates the device or puts up different objects in the training games. The system's artificial intelligence also adjusts the difficulty level according to the patient's performance to create a sense of achievement. Stroke survivors who played the virtual reality games in addition to their regular 4-week rehabilitation program made significant progress in several standard tests, while those in a control group saw no major changes.
Our goal is to improve the patient's function and quality of life. The Smart Glove group also scored higher on the quality of life scale, which shows it can be used as a tool for comprehensive therapy.
Virtual reality-based treatments are easily accessible and can be used by patients at home. The researchers also plan to integrate virtual reality-based treatments into physical therapy sessions. Park Se-young, Arirang News.
Now, the transition from winter to spring brings many things: cherry blossoms, sunnier days and shorter sleeves. But the change in temperature messes up our immune system, leaving us much more prone to catching the common cold. Kim Mok-yeon reports.
As the seasons begin to change in Korea, people are becoming more susceptible to colds because of the wide swing in temperatures between day and night. According to the National Health Insurance Corporation's analysis on patients who suffered from acute respiratory infections or colds from 2010 to 2014, the number of infected patients peaked between March and April every year. There were more than 4.5 million cold patients in March on average over the past 5 years, up more than 300,000 compared to January, the coldest month in Korea. Data also showed that children under 10 years old were most vulnerable to cold viruses.
This is because children under 10 are still acquiring immunity towards various kinds of infections. After this stage, their level of resistance against such viruses will rise, making them less susceptible.
The common cold is usually caused by viruses entering a person's respiratory system. The best ways to protect yourself from the cold virus is to wash your hands often, avoid crowded areas, and maintain constant body temperature. Kim Mo-gyan, Arirang News.
Now, before we go, we're going to take a brief look at the weather here in Korea, and spring has well and truly arrived. The mercury actually hit up to 20 degrees Celsius in some parts of the country this afternoon. However, now that the sun has set, it is starting to feel more and more chilly. The overnight low, in fact, in Seoul is going to dip to 2 degrees Celsius, so you will need a jacket if you head out tonight. Sunday will be similar to today, though, with plenty of sunshine nationwide and highs in the upper teens. With that, let's take a look at the weather around the world. Well, those are the stories we have for you at this hour. For more of the latest, don't forget to check out the website arirang.com/news. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Goodbye.